Welcome to the Man Cave Podcast. This is your escape for real, unscripted conversations about sports, hobbies, life, and storytelling. No scripts, no forced takes, just Man Cave talk. Now, here's your host, Dan Casper.
All right, let's knock out another 15. Another 15 for our top 250 countdown. If you have missed any, as a reminder, you can check out episodes of the Man Cave podcast. They are available on there. And, well, we still got a lot more coming up here, so don't yell if we don't say somebody or something like, how could you exclude them? And hey, there's 250, okay? All right. We're probably still going to miss some, but it's for fun. And I'm going to go through some of these that I will admit, for our next 15, there's going to be quite a few in this one that, again, I'm not the biggest fans of this sport, but I also recognize the popularity and the impact that it's had in American sports for the last 250 some years. Okay? So, without further ado, I guess let's jump right into it. Wrestlers, wrestling fans, you might be a little bit happy with this one because there's going to be a few on this list. But, I mean, WWE, WWF, whatever you want to call it these days. I know it's WWE, okay? But just throw back there a little bit. We mentioned them in the first episode or the first round when we kind of just highlighted the leagues and the organizations and such. Well, I think, now you got to mention a few people in its history attached to the WWE and the wrestling world. Starts with Vince McMahon. I mean, you got to throw him in there. If you're going to talk about the WWE and all the different chapters, history, good, bad, and such. I mean, you got to go with Vince McMahon, right? I mean, he's a part of that conversation. If you can't tell the history of WWE without Vince McMahon. So that's obvious. You put him in there. Also, I think you have to put in, now, if you're looking at certain wrestlers, you got to put in Hulk Hogan. And we talk about icons and, just these people. If you're not the biggest fan or not even really a fan of that sport, you're probably, but you know who they are? That's an icon. That's legendary. And that's kind of what it was for me, for Hulk Hogan. I was a kid. Honestly, I don't know if I've ever watched a full wrestling match. I saw clips once in a while on TV, whether it was like USA or wherever it was. But I had Hulk Hogan stuff. I played the video games. I had all this other, stuff. I knew who he was. That's iconic. That's legendary. And you can't tell the history of wrestling without Hulk Hogan. Same as Ric Flair. Nature Boy, Ric Flair. A lot of these wrestlers, again, I would not consider myself a wrestling fan. Okay, I'm going to put it out there in case you haven't heard that before. I've mentioned it before. I would not consider myself a wrestling fan. A lot of you listeners right now, I know are. Brandon is, Justice is. I would not consider myself a wrestling fan. Like if it's some of the big matches and that, it's not appointment viewing for me. But I understand it and I respect it. I understand why it's popular, why it's big and that. And I mean, the fact that we know a lot of these, or I know a lot of these, just kind of tells you the iconic and maybe legendary stats. I don't want to get into a debate with people whether it's, well, that's a real sport or not. No. It's a part of the top 250, okay? You can't tell the history in the last 250 years of the sporting world, of the sports world, without mentioning some of these people, and I'm sure I'm probably going to miss a wrestler on here or whatever have you, but trying to make sure we get enough attention to others out there. So you got Hogan, you've got the Nature Boy, Ric Flair. I think you got to put in, Andre the Giant. I mean, come on, who didn't love Andre the Giant, for crying out loud? Whether my favorite part of Andre the Giant is hearing some of his stories about, his, let's just say, night outs and beverages and all that fun stuff. So I'm throwing Andre the Giant in there. I'm throwing The Rock in there. And I'm going to throw Stone Cold Steve Austin in there. So I think you've got to throw those individuals when you talk about the top 250. Impact, not everybody is going to be fans of these certain sports and such. So they may not agree or they may not, why are they picked on there? But when I look at WWE and I look at the people, and I'll be honest with you, there's probably going to be more coming up here, but I'm trying to split it up here. But I'm looking at these names right away, and these are some of the names that come off the top of the list for me. Vince McMahon, Hulk Hogan, Ric Flair, The Rock, Andre the Giant, Stone Cold Steve Austin. There you go. There's 6 of them right there. Let's move on to a couple. I'll throw a couple more in here that are maybe non-traditional sports. Living the Dream Jeff might like this one. Chuck Liddell. Again, I'm not the biggest MMA fighter, but a lot of people know who Chuck Liddell is. And when I think of mixed martial arts and I think about those type of fights, the first person I think about is Chuck Liddell. UFC. I know UFC is very popular. It's must watch for a lot of people. But he is the first name I think about when I think about that sport. Not to get into a debate. I don't know. I'll be honest with you. I don't know if he is the best of all time. I don't know where people have him ranked on that thing. But I think it when you ask somebody like myself, hey, name somebody from the MMA world, mixed martial arts, the first person that I'm going to say is Chuck Liddell. And I think that speaks to the impact that he had on that sport, on the popularity of that sport. Same with the next person that I'm going to throw out there, Shaun White. Now, I remember when I was younger in like middle school and high school and such, I had some friends that were huge into snowboarding or just loved going snowboarding. They'd go over to Rib Mountain over by Wausau and do a lot of, snowboarding and such. And I'm the same age as Shaun White, actually. But, that was kind of, again, I was not a snowboarding person. I was not, into that and such. But you knew who Shaun White was, whether it was the red hair or, he was doing endorsements and on TV, video games and all that, X Games, right? A lot of these people that I'm mentioning right now, I don't know, or I don't know a whole lot about their sports, or I'm not either big fans of them, but I know who they are. And I know the impact that they had on their particular sports. And Shaun White, when I think about snowboarding, when I think about the Winter Olympics in the early 2000s, I think about Shaun White. That's the first name I kind of go to. In a similar breath, it's Tony Hawk, skateboarding. Some of those same friends that I had, there was a bike park in Medford. And that thing would be loaded with kids, doing bikes or, doing skateboarding or bikes. And here's the thing, too, like Tony Hawk, video games. I just found this out. Apparently, I don't know where I just heard this a couple days ago. It might have been in a video clip with Tony Hawk. But apparently they were talking about doing a Tony Hawk version of Space Jam, the movie, after the Jordan one, the original. But I remember as a kid, like the Mongoose bike era. Okay, this was when I was younger. The Mongoose bike, you had the pegs on the back, Airwalk shoes. That era. A lot with skateboarding and bike. Like I went through a phase when I was a kid. I was like, okay, I want to do that. I had Airwalk shoes. I had the bike with the pegs and that. I didn't do tricks. I didn't do it with a bike park or anything like that. But it was, okay, Tony Hawk is kind of the thing. He's the dude. He's the guy, that's really popular. That's the type of impact that they had on their particular sports. 7, 8. So we got 8 already. I'm going to go throw another one in here. Jenny Fisher, women's softball. Again, I'm kind of going to my youth. But if you polled a lot of people, maybe my age or maybe a little bit younger, say, hey, name a famous women's softball player. Who would you go? I think the majority are going to go Jenny Finch. That's who I would pick if I was asked to name one women's softball player or the best or the most famous. It's Jenny Finch. And whether it was, back in the Olympics when they won the 2004 Summer Olympics, early days in college for Arizona, I think she was the face of women's softball in the early 2000s. And I still remember she would be involved like in Major League Baseball's All-Star festivities when they did like the celebrity games. She was in those and playing on those too. So, more exposure that way. Same with Lindsey Vonn. I'm going to throw Lindsey Vonn into this too. A lot of these athletes may not necessarily be the best of that group, or they may not be considered the GOATs of their particular sports. But you want to talk about impacts and pop culture wise and kind of elevating the popularity of their sports. This is where you have a lot of these athletes kind of coming in here. And Lindsey Vonn is right there too. Downhill skiing. I don't downhill ski. A lot of you who do downhill skiing or ski jumping here at Silvermine, I tip my cap to you. You're braver than me. I'm scared of doing it. That might make a good game on video episode, but I don't want to break my leg or anything like some of you kids that are out there. I tip my cap to all of you that do that. But watching downhill skiing and the speed that they go on, holy moly. But again, if you were to ask me, hey, name a downhill skier, I'm going to say Lindsey Vonn. The impact that she has made on sport, like Jenny Finch too, in softball. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. All right, let's switch over. We did some athletes, so we got 11. We got to do 4 more here. Let's go back to some teams. Iconic franchises, organizations that you can't tell the history of sports in America without mentioning these for the last 250 years. I'm going to mention a couple that I know in our particular listener group, they're just going to roll their eyes. But I plead with you to kind of take off the homer cap and acknowledge that we can't tell the history of sports without these teams, without these organizations. And one of them is the Dallas Cowboys. I know, all jokes aside, but let's be real here. Can you tell the history of the NFL without the Dallas Cowboys? Take the jokes aside. The Dallas Cowboys are a brand. They are a major impact in the NFL world and the sports world. I believe, kind of like the Yankees, the Cowboys are just kind of that go-to team for maybe casual fans out there. Or if they want to pick a team to be a fan of, let's go with America's team. Let's go with the Dallas Cowboys with the star on their helmet. I think that's something that they got going for them. They obviously draw a lot of attention, a lot of eyes on that TV. You can't tell the history without mentioning the Dallas Cowboys. Hey, I'll even spin it this way. You can't tell a lot of jokes about the NFL without mentioning the Dallas Cowboys. So maybe look at it from that way. But you got to throw the Dallas Cowboys in there. You got to throw the Chicago Bears in there. Again, take the jokes aside. Indiana Bears, Chicago Bears, whatever. The Bears. From the early goings, George Halas, one of the oldest franchises still, an iconic franchise to this day. You got to throw the Chicago Bears in there too. I know Packers fans, okay? I know. But let's be real here. When we talk about the oldest rivalry in the National Football League, or the greatest rivalry in the National Football League, can't have one without the other. And if we're going to throw Green Bay in here, you still got to throw the Chicago Bears in here too. You literally cannot tell the history of the NFL without Chicago, without the Bears, without the Decatur Stanleys, and now the Indiana Bears. I'm going to throw the 49ers in there too. I think from, the Bill Walsh era, West Coast offense. I mean, Joe Montana, Jerry Rice, those 80s. I look at the decade of the 80s as like the 49ers decade. Those 49ers teams, early 90s too. To me, the 49ers, when I look at a few franchises across the National Football League, the 49ers are one of those marquee franchises. It's Green Bay. It's the Steelers. It's the Cowboys. It's, it's the Bears. I'll even throw the Giants part of that equation too. But it's 49ers. I think they're one of the marquee franchises in NFL history, and a lot of it is because of what they did in the 80s. So that's 11. We did 12, 13, 14. We'll do one more here. All right, I'll since I've already kind of maybe upset some Wisconsin fans, I might as well throw them in here. We got to throw the Cubs in there. All right, we'll just get it out of the way. All right, we'll just get this one out of the way. Sorry, fellow Brewers fans, but we got to throw the Cubs in there. Wrigley Field, the curse for the longest time, Harry Carey. I mean, for a lot of us, depending on where you grew up, the only baseball games on TV were either the Braves or the Chicago Cubs. The Cubs are an iconic franchise, as painful as that is for diehard Brewers fans like ourselves to kind of say. But, I mean, even for a lot of Brewers fans, you hear from older Brewers fans, when the Braves left Milwaukee and there wasn't a team in Milwaukee, who did they go root for? A lot of them rooted for the Cubs. And you can't tell the history of Major League Baseball without mentioning the Cubs. Wrigley Field, the pinstripe jerseys, whatever you want to say. It's you got to throw them in there too. So that's the next group of 15 in our top 250 countdown.